before, so you can also check that out. This museum is also very and from around where it was built until 1952, for around 100 years, people lived here all year round to make sure that the boat can get safe and sound to the city. And there was a story of one lighthouse keeper. He was a man who was married to his wife. Together they had 5 kids. They also had the kids, they all took the boat or they swam over to the mainland to go to school, which is now on the right hand side. This is still Bygde. During winter time, the road used to freeze right here, so they could just easily walk over the ice to the mainland. Of course, this was quite dangerous during some seasons of the year, but then the parents just gave them one plank. So if they fall through the ice, they could easily just climb up again on the ice and continue their way to school. So it was different times back then. If you have a look now on the mainland, and we are still looking at Bygde, as I said, you can see a white tower with a green triangle roof. This is the Holocaust Center. Back to World War II, there was a man who was our prime minister, who was also the leader of the Nazi parties. He actually lived here, and his name was Vidkun Quisling. Quisling itself actually means traitor, and that was what he was looked upon after the World War II. So he was actually executed as almost the last person at the Akershus fortress. So he lived here for around 4 years. And now this is a Holocaust Center to remind us about all that happened to the Jews and to remind us. There were some people here at Oslo, when noticing that he lost his dinghy, they decided to rescue his dinghy that escaped. They jumped into their rowing boat and they saved it, and King Oscar II was very, very recommend going to the Norwegian Folk Museum. It's an outdoor museum where they have a traditional Valentin Fürst, and he actually, in the second half of the 1800s, he made a sawmill in here and got a very huge business. It was over 200 employees here, and there was ships coming from all around the world in here to get use of this sawmill. It was a very good placement because it's very close to the railway as well as the mainland, and it has its own own community here in Snaresund, and it was like their own bakery, their own housing, they even had their own orchestra. So it was a whole little community here. And this man, Valentin First, he actually sold this property to the family name of Holsa, and that's what you can see now. It's a small island here in the middle. It's Holsa, and this is one of the few still privately owned islands here in the inner Oslo Fjord.
way. I just didn't get out. I know, right? But if I knew what I knew now, I would get it.
Debating though. My computer is starting to have looking quirks.
Did you just get that one?
No, I got it. I got it repaired. Debating though, which might be weird. Like my dad.
Yeah, same with my computer. But don't get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna just get
I'll get back.
Yeah. But you can't like do anything personal on your work computer. Otherwise you'll get at least in Amazon, yeah.
Several pieces and then it was raised here at Nessos. The tale says that they got a divorce not long after this house was finished, but love is love. And today this is used like a venue. You can rent this for parties and other funny events if you would like. And now coming up as well, there's a lot to talk about here at Nesodden, so I'll continue talking. These small tiny houses right nearby the waterfront, they are bathing houses. The original ones were built in the early days of the 1800s. These are not the original ones, because the original ones, they got destroyed by weather and they decided to rebuild it, but they rebuilt it higher than the sea level so it could last longer. So these bathing houses were used for swimming. Back in the days, it was very frowned upon swimming with no clothes or with bathing suits. So they find a solution and it was making these houses. Inside these houses, there's actually a hole. So you can just go into your house, get undressed and swim in that little hole inside of there. They also built the walls very thin so you could still speak with your neighbor. So it could be a social happening while you were inside. Nice. Around 100 years later, these bathing houses were used for some different activities. So alcohol was prohibited in the early days of the 1900s. So this was the place for buying and smuggling alcohol in these tiny houses. So people will come here and there will always be police placed in the city and they was always looking out here because they knew there was some mysterious things happening here at Nesodden. So whenever they saw a lot of rowing boats going back and forth, they knew, okay, now it's alcohol happening here, we should take a look. So they will jump into their rowing boats and row out here. But the smugglers, of course, they have trained for this. So they just packed down everything of the alcohol in their boats and they started rowing over to Vassholmene, which we crossed earlier this morning, over on the left-hand side. And the police followed, of course, but when the police got there, they could never find the alcohol all the boats. This was a huge mysterium for the police officers, and they looked around, couldn't find anything. Because the smugglers, they had sunken their own boats with big rocks and sunken it all the way to the sea bottom, so they couldn't find it. So when the police went away, they happily just fished out their boats again and continued with the lovely alcohol smuggling process. On top of Nesodden, we have some lakes. These, in the second half of the 1800s, this was used for ice production. I don't know if you've seen the movie Frozen, but you can imagine all these huge blocks in that movie. area. As you can see, these people working here had more space to move around, so they were kind of praised. Very soon you can see some old parts of an old sea airport. So here there was a sea airport operating all the way to the 50s. The flight will end here in the water and they will drive into Gressholmen and park there. Today this is a harbor and a storage. So you can see it here. Gressholmen is also known as the Rabbit Island. Oh, here some time back there was someone living here. They had like 2 rabbits or so. During the winter they decided to go in the city to live and they left their 2 rabbits behind here at Gressholmen. And you know, rabbits do what rabbits do. So it ended with a lot of rabbits on these islands, hundreds and hundreds of rabbits. They ate the vegetation. Of course this was a huge problem for the municipality. And they tried different things to make the rabbits magically disappear or something, but one of the things they did was to put out fox families, 2 fox families on this island and expecting that it would just be okay. But the fox families stayed every year so they could go away during winter to the mainland, so the rabbits could stay.
Noe plastikk.
Or when we get there. about the nation. It's about symbolizing the nation working together for peace. Another thing with this city hall is that it has 49 clocks inside of it, and it makes it Europe's biggest instrument. Of course, there's a lot of other churches with big clocks, but this actually can play melodies, and every whole hour, like 8, 9, 10, 11, blah, 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 during the day, it plays a new melody, and it can be anything from Bob the Builder to Bach. So if you listen carefully, you might catch what melody they are playing, and if it's hard to hear, they also put it on their website. So